Hey there, Mr. Reddit here. Welcome back to another episode of r/Entitled Parent Stories. Our first story we'll be reading today, I got Karen fired from the HOA. After that, am I the jerk for walking out of my house in shock over my wife's priorities? And after that, manager gets me fired. I turn things around and get her job. Now for every thumbs up this video gets, one Karen gets fired. Please don't! So please smash that like button. And if you're new, subscribe and turn on notifications for new stories from Reddit every single day. I got Karen fired from the HOA. To start the story, some background you need to know about me. I volunteer to train and raise service dogs. My fiance says clearly I have a look that says I am weak and a pushover. I have constant encounters with Karens who are just not ready for my responses when they engage me. I have been in the military for 17 years when this happened and was responsible for managing over 130 service members. I am anything but a pushover. I work with civilians, so I have cultivated a polite exterior, but I was counseled for looking unapproachable and scary to civilian counterparts. The story. As I said, I raise service animals, so I fall under the ADA when it comes to regulations on where and what I can do with my puppy. We'll call him O. O is an amazingly behaved black lab of 6 months. I have cultivated a level of trust and obedience where I can leave him in a sit with other dogs around so long as I am in eyesight and he will stay. I'd raised a few pups by then and I would never have done that with them, but O is amazing and I can't wait to get him back after his tour of duty helping Mrs. C be independent. I meet the HOA Karen one Saturday. Me and my fiance and O were going to head on a road trip to visit my fiance's parents. In our preparation, the last on the list is always getting the kids to use the bathroom before a long trip. So we head out. O gets busy and I grab a bag to clean it up. I put him in a sit stay and hand the leash to my girl. As I start walking to the trash can, it's about 100 feet from where he went, I have a clear line of sight to the dog and he's sitting pretty and alert and watching me intently for a hand cue or a voice command. As I'm walking, I hear a woman start screeching. I don't quite make it out, but it sounds angry. I ignore it and keep walking to the dumpster to deposit my waste bag and turn around to head back to my two favorite people. It is then I make eye contact with the HOA Karen from here on out. She's your typical Karen, not an inch over 5 foot and has the same circumference, the short chopped hair that says, "I'm the manager now." She looks me in the eyes and I finally listen to her shrill scream of, "Your dog must be on a leash and in your hand. My county state law says so. I will call the cops." Now, I don't do ignorant, and respect given is respect earned. I was willing to try and de-escalate. My fiance owns the condo and is super non-confrontational, so for her, I try to bring it back down to civil levels of discussion. In a polite but firm voice, I asked, "Did she even look over at the dog before she started yelling at me?" She just bellows like a banshee again. I repeat. This back and forth happens 3 or 4 times, me calm, her escalating in pitch and volume. At this point, she hasn't given respect, so none is required to be given back. I break out my "you done messed up" NCO to junior voice. It is loud and clearly states, "I'm done with your BS, lady." I clearly tell her if she would have taken 2 seconds to look, she would have seen the dog is sitting on a leash in someone's hands. She stops bellowing at me, looks, and turns a bit red in the face and musters, "You could just say thank you," which I curtly reply, "Shut up and get out of my face." She waddled quickly off, tail tucked into her condo door. My next meeting with her was when I was grilling. The HOA states no charcoal grills and no smoking/barbecue. I was born in the north, but as a military brat, moved to the south since I was 2. There's a difference between barbecuing and grilling. Barbecue is 12 plus hours with coals of hardwood or wood smoking. Grilling is cooking meat on a grill instead of the stove. The HOA put out a reminder, no barbecuing on the premises and no coals. So I was like, awesome, get a small propane grill. It's not barbecue, but it's better than nothing. So I was out grilling and I hear the banshee cry all too familiar now. Again, she didn't come up to me and talk, she just started screaming. So I looked her right in the eye and with the same firm voice, "Shut up and go away. If you say one more word, I'll be the one calling the cops for harassment by an HOA member." She sputtered something about no grilling or open flames, and I told her buzz off, show me in writing and by someone other than her. She waddled off, and then I was approached by the HOA president with the HOA bylaws and sat to read them, during which my fiance started a conversation with them about another issue we were having with them. She was in the middle of having the state attorney's office ask some questions about activities they were trying to force her into paying for. It wasn't going well for the HOA, and she took this opportunity to introduce herself. While she may be non-confrontational when it comes to small things, she will stand up for herself when it comes to it. Her introducing herself changed everyone's tone, and they became oh so polite. Karen tried to play the victim to her and say I was mean and could use some manners when engaging with people. I love my soon-to-be wife, so let her paint her tale how she was a victim. When she finished, she looked her dead in the eyes and said, "You know, I was the one holding the leash, and I was standing right here when he was grilling. So no, you got the same respect you gave." She paled and faded to the back, and that's when the president of the HOA stepped in and told me I can't have the grill and that I can be fined, and I needed to follow the rules of the HOA or the next time he'll be the one calling the cops. Well, President, roger that. It is my job to enforce regulations in the military. I spend hours reading instructions. Nothing pleases me more than when I get to shove it in someone's face at work to my guys what they are owed or to force them to do their job right. So you want me to follow the rules? Copy that, buddy. So I begin my research. I found a few interesting things. 1. No HOA bylaw can be enforced if it is not the state database. 2. This particular HOA's bylaws were last updated 1994. It was 2016. 3. They state they follow my county's fire code, which follows NFPA. 4. Finally, the gym. The exact coordinates of the HOA's property lines. So I get a login for the state's database and print the HOA bylaws. I print the NFPA, which states in a multifamily home you can store propane tanks no bigger than 2.7 liters, but they can total no more than 5.4 liters cumulatively. I go to Lowe's, get a rope tape measure and stakes. I pull up Google Maps and mark the HOA boundary line on it. Lo and behold, what do I find? A drainage ditch that is city property not 10 feet from where I was grilling. So I take my coordinates, my stakes, and go carefully mark off the section of city property. Now for the revenge. I call the city/county fire departments and request a permit to grill on said city property. They said go for it. I didn't need a permit for it and no one would care. I insisted and they said it's my $50. They issued an event open flame. So with both permits, it was $100, but I got permission from the city to grill there for 6 months. The next day at 7 a.m., I went to set up. I carefully measured so I was at least 3 feet into the city property, set up my cooler with enough meat and beer to grill till doomsday, then waited for the fireworks. It didn't take long for Karen to come screaming at me. I mean, it was 10 feet from the community pool and 3 feet from the sidewalk gazebo that led to the pool. I just hit record on my phone and politely told her she has no need to yell and I am breaking no laws. She kept screaming about no grilling and how she's tired of me and she's going to get me arrested and kicked out if it's the last thing she does. She hasn't liked me since she saw me and has just been waiting to get me kicked out. Then now that she knows which condo is mine, it's just a matter of time till she finds something. On and on. I guess me polite and showing zero fear was upsetting her and she tried to come to take my stuff. Big no-no. As she reached for my cooler, I broke out my NCO voice and told her if she so much as brushes a finger against my property, I would remove the offending body part with force if necessary. This sent her scurrying off again. About 20 minutes later, I see 2 cop cars pull up and Mr. HOA president himself. He's all chummy with the cops, and as they approach, I hear him say, "Yup, same guy. I already told him once before he can't grill on the HOA grounds." He comes to a stop about 10 feet from me. One cop stays with him, and the other keeps walking up to me. I have a crap-eating grin on my face. I can hardly wait for the conversation to happen. The cop is slightly off-put by my joyous face and slight giggle when I ask what seems to be the problem, officer. I get informed that I am in violation of the bylaws and have been warned once already, and I'm going to receive a ticket for disturbing the peace for threatening the HOA when they were trying to enforce their rules, ticket for an illegal open flame, ticket for illegal storage of flammable substance, on and on. The last was, if I didn't pick up, I would be arrested and removed. Now that he was done, I first handed him my permit from the city to grill. He took it, walked back to the president, and they discussed it for a moment, and then returned. Says you can't get a permit from the city to grill on private property. I then showed him the coordinates for the HOA and the Google Maps gridded drawing and my current GPS location. Mind you, I'm smiling handing the sheet to him because the grid was not all on one sheet and had addendums. Took about 4 minutes to explain it to him. As I was about to hand him more, he held up a hand to stop me. He then asks how long I had planned this with a smirk. I told him, oh, about a week. He gave me a look of disbelief but moved on. He then asked me if I threatened Karen. I just played back the recording to him. At the end, he said nothing seems out of place here, you're free to go. I stopped him and asked if I could file a complaint for HOA harassment through him. He said no, that the city clerk office is the correct place, but he would document harassment by the two of them and file a report for me. In my state, it's illegal to be harassed by the HOA. It comes with jail of a few months, fines as high as $5,000, and immediate removal from the board and the possibility of recovery of damages. I settled for them both being removed from the board instead of filing a complaint. I waved to Karen every day I grill or showed her my leash if I had. Have you ever had a problem with the HOA? If so, what did you do about it? Please let us know. My only problem is they won't let me join the board. Am I the jerk for walking out of my house in shock over my wife's priorities? Would just like to preface this by saying I, 37 male, walked out not in malicious protest, but because I wanted to cool off. So here goes. My wife, who's 38, and daughter, who is 11, got into a jokey discussion about alien invasions and apocalyptic situations. Then my daughter asks if my wife would protect her in this situation, and my wife says, I love you more than I'll love anybody else in the world. Yes, she says this in front of me. My wife then puts her arm around my shoulder and goes on to say that her father, aka me, and I would use each other as shields against any danger that comes to you, meaning she'd gladly sacrifice me. At that point, I picked up my keys and said, gee, thanks. Go ahead and start lunch without me. My wife suddenly gets self-righteous and said there was no way I could expect her to choose a spouse over her kid. I felt like she had just crapped on our entire marriage and life vows, and the principle aside, the fact I was furious I think should have been enough to excuse me leaving the house. So I left the house and drove around to cool off. Then I went over to my sister's house because I told her how upset I was, and as a result, she and her spouse invited me over to have dinner with them. I may have ignored some calls from my wife, but she knew where I was, and in addition, I just couldn't see her or be in the house at the moment. I always felt like my wife loved the kids more than me, and it hurts. The fact that she would hypothetically and so casually throw me to the wolves was making me question if I loved her more than she loved me, and if so, why I bothered to give her my loyalty, when there could be other women, like my sister, who valued their spouses more than anything. Am I the jerk? Not for my beliefs, but for the fact that I took the time to cool off. I needed this time because I was seriously and suddenly regretting a lot of the sacrifices I made for her, when it wasn't like I didn't have other options. Women in their early 20s who have hit on me, but who I ignored in favor of the woman who I thought would put me first. Well, what do you think? Do you think OP overreacted, or was he right? Please let us know. Bruh. Manager gets me fired, I turn around and get her job. I was hired by a company as an assistant manager, a job I was well qualified for. The owner is rarely on site as he owns several businesses. The company is run by a GM who hired me, but who mostly works second shift, and who I therefore would have little daily contact with since I was hired for first shift. I was assigned to Eva for training. Eva was a manager and had been with the company 5 years. I trained with her for a few days and then I was on my own, though she and I had overlapping shifts and would see each other a few days a week. We were friendly, but not close. After a few months, I was doing well at my job and had even gotten some new procedures adopted to help boost sales. Eva began to act resentful. She would correct me for small things and took any opportunity to remind me that she had trained me. It didn't matter to me. She wasn't my boss. I reported to the GM, so I mostly just ignored her. What I didn't know was that Eva was not just tight with the GM, but they had worked together at another place for 10 years before this one. One day at shift end, GM asks to talk, tells me it's not working out, says I'm still making mistakes at 6 months that I shouldn't be. I ask for examples. A few of them were petty matters Eva had mentioned, but most of them were just not true. I tried to argue, but it was clear that I was set up. I decided to reach out to the owner since I had nothing to lose. He was sympathetic, but said he relies on GM to run the business and had to support her decision. Then he mentioned that if things hadn't been so bad between me and Eva, it probably could have been worked out. That's when I knew she was behind me being fired from a job I needed, really liked, and was making great money at, and I vowed to get revenge. I started searching her info online. In less than an hour, I had uncovered gold thanks to one of those pay services. About 3 months prior, Eva was arrested and charged with a DWI in a neighboring state. The court records showed she had a hearing coming up in a few weeks. That was enough to get her fired. It affects the professional license she and I had to have as management. Per state law, license holders must report criminal charges to the licensing board, and in the case of a DWI arrest, licenses are typically suspended pending trial. I called the owner and told him what I discovered. It was news to him. I guess since it was out of state, Eva was keeping it secret. Maybe she was hoping to get let off the charges. The next day, the owner called and said Eva was fired. He thanked me for telling him about her DWI, apologized for how I was fired, and offered me Eva's position and salary. He asked me to come in the next morning to meet with him and to cover Eva's shift. I accepted. That alone was sweetly satisfying revenge, but what happened next was the icing on the cake. I got to work extra early, met with the owner and GM, and we all agreed to start fresh. Cool. It was still an hour before opening, and I was in the back of the place when I heard the front door chime. When I came out a few minutes later, Eva was there, tears flowing, begging the owner for her job back. She obviously didn't know I was there, because when she saw me, her whole body seized, and her shocked expression was priceless. I walked right by her, staring her down with a crap-eating grin, and went outside. Eva came out a minute later and wouldn't make eye contact. As she walked away, I said, "Good luck on the 23rd. That was her court date. Have you ever gotten revenge on a coworker? If so, we'd really love to hear about it. Effective immediately. About 10 months ago, I worked dispatch and transport for a company who was in the steel reinforcement industry. I generally worked with customers to have their steel arrive when they needed it, so they wouldn't be delayed as best I could, and occasionally would have to ask other customers if they could reschedule or if their delivery was time critical. My original supervisor had left for a better opportunity at a rival company about 5 months prior, and I now had to report to the higher-ups because they refused to either promote me or hire someone to fill his position, and instead just transferred someone from interstate who was from another department, not transport, to do the easier parts of my job, calling customers who had multi-level buildings to pre-plan an approximate date of when they would need certain work plans put into production, while I had to continue to do the bulk of delivery planning, truck scheduling, driver manifests, and booking any small courier work. Although, during the week leading up to this MC, she was on leave and I had been doing everything. Now, rule of thumb was account customers who paid a premium delivery got priority, then standard account customers, followed by one-off or cash sale customers, unless the customer happened to pay for the premium delivery service. Unfortunately, sales and management had started getting the idea that they could get every delivery done whenever the customer said jump, because I had been hitting the target with about a 99% hit rate, with the exceptions of when weather or machine breakdown became a factor. Sorry for the backstory, but I feel it was needed to get the full context of the job. Those in transport understand. So I got a call from one of the customers, we'll call him John Doe, who happened to be a cash sale, telling me he needed his steel on this site approximately 80 kilometers away, 50 miles for those who not yet caught up with the rest of the world, at 7 a.m. on Monday on a truck with a crane, but couldn't accommodate a semi as there wasn't room on the site. Problem was that this was on Friday, in the afternoon, 90 minutes before my finishing time. I told the customer I'm sorry, but there's no way I could get 23 tons of steel produced and delivered to him by 7 a.m. as his site was at least 60 to 90 minutes away depending on traffic, and our crane truck drivers start at 6 a.m. So they first need to check and tie down their load before getting the okay to leave by the safety officer on site. But also, all our production capacity was full, and his steel, which was originally booked for Tuesday afternoon, was pre-approved for a semi with no crane, as they had one on site. Now the silence was deafening, as I knew exactly what was coming. JD had started a huge tirade about how his steel needed to be there or he had missed the concrete pour, and his steel fixers needed it ready to go the moment they finished their site meeting. I guess they had an hour-long site meeting, and that their crane was not arriving on site until the following week when the prefab walls arrive. Now, to be fair, I had just had a week of heck already, and this guy was the last thing I wanted before I was to enjoy my weekend, so I simply responded with the, "I'm sorry, sir, but my hands are tied at this point. If you had called yesterday and I had time to try and rearrange some jobs, it would have had a slight chance of being pushed up, but as it is now, I wouldn't be able to. A, have the steel produced, or B, have 2 crane trucks spare to dedicate to one delivery." Before he can resume his rant, I tell the customer, "I can try for Tuesday morning, but again, at this point, only half of the order would get there, and I would first need to have a driver agree to start early to be there by 7 a.m. JD, "That's not good enough. I've paid good money for this steel, so I expect it when I need it." Me, "I understand you need the steel. However, you're asking me to prioritize your work over another that was already booked and confirmed." JD, "And your point? Just get me my delivery." Me, "My point is, you're asking me to sit here at my desk for another 2 hours while I attempt to find the trucks needed from outside hire departments. Ask the production team to work overtime tonight and tomorrow to complete the extra work loading onto 2 separate trucks, and try to convince 2 drivers to start at least half an hour earlier to have a chance at being there by 7 a.m. if they are quick at tying down their loads, as well as the extra work the morning crew will have on Monday to load 2 other trucks that couldn't get preloaded as they're outside hire and won't get there until 6 a.m. at the earliest. And that's assuming I can even find the trucks on such short notice, considering most companies have their trucks completely booked out by midday for the next business day." JD, "Forget you. Don't tell me how you can't do it. Last week I ordered 50 lengths and it was here 3 hours later, so don't tell me you can't do it." Me, "May I ask who you ordered it through? We have a few sites around the state that hold stock materials that can be couriered, and assumed correctly that this is what had happened." JD, "Dave is the guy I normally speak to about that stuff." Me, "Oh, from our site that is literally 20 minutes from you that had the stock on hand, so only needed to put it on a truck that was going that way?" Apparently, this is where I had pushed him over the edge, because he hung up on me and I had wrongly assumed he got the message that he was asking the impossible and conceded. But no, I got a call from the big boss asking me to come up to his office about 10 minutes later. When I got there, the sales manager was there also. Boss, "What's this I'm told you refused a customer their delivery?" Before I can respond, sales manager, "I just got off the phone with a customer who I was about to put on an account, telling me that you were rude and offensive and he expects his delivery." Me, "Okay. So in answer to your question, boss, yes, I have refused a customer their delivery on the grounds that we can't make that time slot, as we're already booked up until Tuesday afternoon. And no, sales manager, I wasn't rude or offensive, but if he took offense to anything I said, then that's on him, as offense is taken, not given." Boss, "Okay, why can't we make that delivery?" Me, "Well, because the 23 tons of steel he ordered was originally confirmed for Tuesday afternoon on a semi with no crane, as they apparently had a crane on the site. However, he asked for it to be Monday morning at 7 a.m., split onto 2 rigid crane trucks only 25 minutes ago." Thinking this was a satisfactory answer, I had assumed they would have realized what a jerk this guy was. Sales manager, "What do you mean? That's no reason we can't get the steel to him." At this point, I had lost my patience, as the sales team seemed to think they could get their way no matter what, because management always backed them. I don't know if it's like that in other countries, but here in Australia, we have 2 ways of reacting once we lose our patience: get angry or become a downright smarty. I chose the second path. Me, "Apart from the fact we have 280 tons of steel already booked for other customers, all our crane trucks are booked to confirmed slots, and I would have a better chance of meeting the Queen of England at a local pub while Ozzy Osbourne was biting the head off of a bat than getting another 2 trucks booked before I finish." Boss, "There's no need for that, but surely we can resolve this so everyone is happy." Sales manager, "Get the steel to the customer and I'll be happy." Me, "Stop thinking that I have a magic truck spawning wand that I wave every time you guys place an urgent order or a customer rings complaining they can't change the date and time of their delivery, and I'll be a little less annoyed." This is where things went south. Boss, "Well, this is a potential account customer, so here's what needs to happen. You will find a way to get this done, or you will find another job, effective immediately." Me, "Well, looks like I'm finding another job, because there is no way I can get 2 trucks from here to site by 7 a.m. Monday morning and keep my other job deadlines that I have already confirmed." I then stood up and walked out of the office, back to the dispatch office where my desk was, wiped my personal files, my own notes and spreadsheets I kept that helped me in my job, from the computer I worked on, shut my computer down, and collected my personal belongings from the tea room and desk drawers. The guy who also worked in the office, he worked as the driver's safety check and made sure the trucks were always maintained and compliant. Maintenance guy asked what was going on, to which I shrugged and responded, "Me. You know that Clyde North guy from before? He just complained to his sales rep, who in turn complained to Big Boss, and they told me to find a way of getting it done or find another job. So I guess I'm finding another job." Maintenance guy: "Yeah, but you haven't printed any of the manifests or done the courier booking for Monday morning." Me: "I'm just following instructions and finding another job effective immediately, because they did tell me to do that if I didn't find a way." The desk phone rang, but I didn't answer because it was a sales manager. Then it rang again, this time Big Boss, but I still didn't answer because as far as I was concerned, I was now fired, effective immediately. My mobile rang next from a number I didn't recognize, but I answered because of my karate school and being a potential new student. However, it was Big Boss on his personal mobile. Boss: "Why didn't you answer your desk phone?" Me: "Oh, because effective immediately were the words used. Hence, I no longer work here and am not obligated to answer the phone at the desk I no longer am employed to sit at. Thank you for the employment, boss. By the way, you may need to send someone to organize the manifests and courier bookings for Monday, as I normally do that in my last 90 minutes to ensure any cancellations are caught before I leave. And good luck finding a way of delivering that steel to Clyde North at 7 a.m. on Monday morning." I hung up the phone and said my goodbyes to a few people I actually liked and got along with on my way out. However, as I finished putting my things in my car, I had the sales manager and Big Boss stop me at my car, telling me I had to finish out the day, to which I smiled and responded, "Effective immediately are words I am happy to comply with." Got in my car and drove to my dojo, where thanks to my leave payout, I can now run full-time karate and kabuto classes. As far as I was told, they had to pay a stupid amount of money to the competitor to help them cover the various deliveries that had to be moved around to accommodate the jerk that wouldn't accept his original agreement. Clyde North is the suburb of the delivery. Am I the jerk for not feeding my niece enough? The other day, my brother asked me if it was possible that I could babysit my niece because he and my parents were going to view a house. I agreed to look after her, and he dropped my niece off while picking up my parents. My niece is 3. She's adorable and a very curious, compassionate kid. I absolutely adore her, but to put it nicely, she's a big girl for her age. Nothing wrong with a bit of puppy fat, but this was more than that. My brother and her mother have a habit of giving her anything she wants, things like chocolate and junk food, just to stop her from crying and throwing a tantrum. My mother has addressed this issue with them before, saying that they are installing bad habits into her and that she has started giving her entitlement issues. They ignored my mother's warnings, and I can definitely see what my mother is talking about regarding her getting entitled. Although I do agree with my mother, they can raise her how they like. While she was in my care, she started demanding chocolate and other things. When I told her no, that she needs to have her lunch first, she started to throw a fit, screaming, crying, and rolling around, pounding her hands and feet on the floor. To get her to stop, I said, "Good girls get treats. Are you behaving like a good girl?" She stopped and didn't say anything. I said that if she behaved herself, she would get a treat as a reward. After that, she was pretty well behaved. I gave her lunch, a tuna sandwich with some cut carrots and juice. She didn't want to eat the carrots, so I convinced her to eat them by reminding her that she would get a treat. She ate them, no problems, and I rewarded her with a child-sized bag of chocolate buttons. Everything was fine. No tantrums, no demanding more food, all was good. About 4 hours later, my brother returned and my niece ran over to him. She was happy and he asked if she had a good day. She said she did, telling him everything we did together. Then she said she was hungry. My brother asked what she ate and she told him, saying she was still hungry, mentioning that about the rewards for good behavior. He got annoyed and asked if that was what really happened, and I said it was, but didn't see the big deal. He took me outside and started screaming at me about not feeding his daughter enough, that she's a growing girl, and that I was irresponsible. I said that I stopped her from throwing a tantrum for not getting what she wanted, and as her caretaker, I did what I believed was the right thing to do, reminding him that I did give her lunch. He called me a jerk and said that I should never have kids because I clearly have no idea how to take care of them. He said that I barely fed her and that I should feel ashamed. I don't think I was a jerk at all. I gave her lunch and she never said anything to me about being hungry. If she did, I would have given her a sensible snack. Am I the jerk? Edit. Just to be clear, I'm not annoyed at my niece. She's 3. I mean, seriously, she's a kid after all. How can I be mad at a kid who will bandage your head if she accidentally taps you? Edit 2. I have read comments mentioning following their guidelines or asking if they gave me instructions. They didn't give me any. All my brother said was that she had had her breakfast, so I just needed to give her lunch. He's a great father to my niece, so you all know. I had her for about 5 hours. Edit 3. My niece isn't dumb. She saw my mother with junk food and knows where it is kept. It's too high for her to reach. What do you think? Did OP do anything wrong or not? Please let us know. You think you can steal $1,200 worth of groceries? Think again. So, I work at a reasonably large grocery store. I'm a manager from the front end and have a pretty good eye for people stealing. Most of the time, though, they make it extremely obvious. Well, I'm up at my computer filling stuff out, which just happens to face the front door. Now, there are 2 doors to the store. One is used primarily for entering, while the other is used primarily for exiting. There are no signs anywhere. It's just how people have collectively decided to do things. I look up and see a lady with a full cart of food walking out the entrance door, with everything loose and not in bags. Obviously, she's stealing. Because we can't just claim people are stealing, I immediately run to the back to look at the cameras. I see her walk to the bathroom, then immediately leave the store. So I run. I see her standing a few stores down from work and sprint over there. As I sprint, a car drives up and she starts unloading. Here's the conversation. We've got the thief, and the driver. Me. Hello, ma'am. I'm sorry, but you took this cart pretty far from the store, and I noticed you didn't have anything bagged. Is it okay if I ask to see a receipt for your transaction? Thief. Oh, my sister has the receipt. I'm just loading things up to my Uber. Me. Well, I will need to see a receipt. Otherwise, I'll have to call this in to the police. Thief. Well then, I'll call my sister to come back and show the receipt. Until then, I have to go. Me. Ma'am, I saw you on camera, and I didn't see you shopping with anyone. So if anyone has the receipt, it's you. You can't stop me from shopping. I bought these, okay? Continues loading items into the car. Me. Look, I saw you walk out from the bathrooms on camera. I saw you not pay, and I saw you walk over here. You need to give me these back, or I will call the police. Call the police then. I then went to the front of the car and took a picture of the driver and said, just so you know, what your ride is taking is over the amount needed to be considered a felony. So if you don't want to be involved, I deny this ride. Driver. I'm not her ride. I'm her friend. Me. Well, as a friend, I would tell her to stop or else you'll be involved with a felony. I went back and took pictures of the license plate and pictures of the lady loading things into the car. Me. Just so you know, if you take these items, you and your friend will be convicted of a felony charge. Thief. Well then, fine. Take your food back, but keep it in the cart because I'm coming back with my receipt and you'll be sorry. You'll be fired. Your whole store will go down. Me. If you come back with a receipt, I'll gladly quit my job. Just do the right thing. She ended up giving back all the groceries and leaving. Surprise, she never came back. Stupid people. All I deal with are stupid people. Please come watch this video next and we'll see you when you get there. And join as a channel member today and we'll give you a special shout out in our next video. And to have us make any kind of video you'd like us to, come visit us on Fiverr, link pinned in the comments below.